Clothes. Pieces of fabric that come in all shapes, sizes and colours and wear on most parts of our body. They have been a constant in our lives and there is an entire industry dedicated to them. But a new type of clothing is coming that you haven't seen before. Your clothes are listening to you, literally. Now, there's literally nothing larger than the fashion industry at the moment, apart from maybe makeup. It's literally what everyone is spending their money on across the globe. New brands, new styles, new ways of doing it. The fashion industry alone has different seasons of clothing, whether it's spring, summer, every single time. It's just never ever changing. I mean, alone pre-pandemic, the fashion industry was valued at about 1.7 trillion to even 2.5 trillion, depending on who was doing the ratings. This market is something that can really grow, and it will continue to do it in the future. The use of clothes, or fabrics, to cover our bodies dates back to the time of Neanderthals and before. The oldest physical evidence of clothes actually dates back to Paleolithic figures, but it's likely much older. There is some debate as to whether clothes started as protection from the cold. Several examples exist, and obviously today, of clothes being worn in warmer climes. Suffice to say, they've been around for a while, but their purpose hasn't really changed all that much. Protection from the elements and later for visible representations of social status. But as of 2022, all that has changed. Staff from MIT and the Rhode Island School of Design have created a fabric that allows it to hear, quite literally. All fabric vibrates the sounds of every decibel, from a birdsong to the much louder construction digger. The problem is that vibrations were always too small to actually feel. Nanometers, actually. The team were inspired by the human auditory system to enhance the capabilities of standard fabric today. It does this by being made out of something called piezoelectric material. This means that the vibrations caused by the sounds, mechanical energy, can be converted into something useful, electrical energy, which can be easily read by computers. Piezoelectricity is focused on squeezing crystals, such as quartz, for example, to produce an electric charge or voltage. Normally, crystals are arranged so that the charges balance each other out, but the vibrations actually force these crystals to move, being that they are imbalanced and a charge gets created. And this is essentially the core of their design. Hey, just butting in, this is future me editing the video. So while I was out and about trying to look for B-roll for this video, I came across an accordion playing, and to be honest, I was really surprised at how good it actually was. And basically, because I can't find any other suitable music, I'm going to be using this for the rest of the video. Now, something that's really key to actually understand how this entire fabric works is the vibrations, and it does this through something called a sound wave. Now, the definition of this might sound actually really complicated. It's the pattern of disturbance caused by the movement of energy travelling from the source of the sound. Although to better show that though, I'm going to try and do a quick demo. All I need is a bowl, some cling film, some oats, and a giant tray to make a noise. By hitting the tray, it causes the particles of the pan to vibrate, which then transfers into the surrounding air. This then breaches the plastic, disturbing those particles and forcing them to vibrate, which makes the oats actually move. It is these same invisible sound waves that enable us to hear what is happening. The fabric is so accurate that it can actually measure the sound of a hand clap within 1 degree at a distance of 3 meters away. So far, the predicted uses have been really varied, to be honest. The original paper suggests that it could have been used for aiding the visually impaired, to detecting a baby's fetal heartbeat, and actually even reversing the mechanism of the fibre so that it creates a speaker, something that can actually emit sound rather than just feel it. Smart fibre has been suggested by the original authors to be used for wider areas, such as being placed in buildings to detect strains and weaknesses in the construction, or into fishing trawl nets to monitor fish in the ocean. Even better, this fabric still retains similar normal qualities like everyday clothes, like being able to be washed in washing machines. Importantly, it's also the size. The fibre takes less than 0.1% of the fabric by volume, but a single draw of it creates tens of squares of meters of fabric microphone. A key thing that I sort of want to end on here though is the ethics. Every single time a new piece of tech comes out, nobody really knows how it's going to work or if there's going to be any changes to it or any difficulties. And because a lot of new tech actually focuses on people and people's lives and how people use them, ethics is a really important part. I mean, all you have to do is look at social media and even sort of new semi-recent technologies like, for example, Alexa or Google Chrome. there's always a constant fear that the data, the voice recordings, they're actually being picked up by these devices, are being stored somewhere and being used for purposes than other than what you'd want, like getting deliveries or setting alarms. So it's even more important and prevalent when you actually have a piece of clothing that can hear. I mean, where does that information get stored? Does it get stored on the piece of clothing itself? Is it a cut-off system? If it is, that's okay. Can that database be hacked though? Is there a way that if you got that piece of clothing, that somebody could look into it and get voice recordings? If it's not and it's stored on a cloud service or storage system, fine, how secure is that? Now, at the moment, there's countless recordings that will be picked up or data that's stored on cloud storage servers for the likes of Amazon, Google, Facebook, all of these companies. Now, they like to profess that they have excellent security, and many of them do. I mean, they've got the funding to sort of back it up. But increasingly, cybersecurity and cyber attacks are getting more prevalent, and it's vital, essentially, that you need top of the range cybersecurity. I mean, similar to like computers, generally, Moore's Law, you start developing this tech and it just keeps on getting better and better. The systems get better, therefore the hacking gets better, therefore the defenses need to get better, and the hacking gets better to beat that. It's just a never ending cycle, and it's something that really needs to be addressed. So the data is really the issue, but then also just think about where these clothes are being used, right? I mean, the very Black Mirror and spy-like, but you could be going into meetings, business meetings, private conversations, anything that happens during the home, um, financial meetings with accountants and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff you wouldn't actually want to have anyone hearing. And that's also what you choose to do. I mean, at the moment, the fabric is actually something that's self contained. So the fabric itself needs to actually be made. But what if this actually develops to a point where you can just thread something through it quite quickly? I mean, at the moment, you can attach hidden cameras and hidden microphones onto other people's persons or objects, which sort of collect that data without them knowing. But what if you manage to just get a piece of clothing and then sew an additional thread line through it, and then suddenly that can pick up information? And it's far harder to actually see and find that than it would be actually an electronical device. And one of the key reasons that that's it's so important is basically because piezoelectricity is largely based on the idea of quartz, as sort of I explained. It's not on electrics. Now, so the electrics would need to be used to actually transmit that data, unless it just stored it. So that could be potentially picked up in some sort of metal detector or some other future detector. But these are sort of the key questions that have to really be thought about for tech at an early stage as it's being developed, when it's released, and then when new iterations come out. Because everything within the tech world is just constantly moving. And without actually being aware of it, you're never going to keep on top of it at all. But like everything with the progress of change, this tech has the potential to do some real good. I mean, all the examples that I spoke about before about detecting a baby's fetal heartbeat or helping the visually impaired, all of these can really change people's lives. And I guess that's the double-edged sword with tech generally. It's always got good uses and it's always got bad uses. It really depends on how we choose to use that tech. The tech itself isn't necessarily bad. And that's actually something that's quite often called tech realism, as opposed to the pessimists out there or the optimists that think tech is going to somehow save us from our own issues. But who knows? Very soon, clothes that you could hear and clothes that can hear things could be coming to you very soon. Just gotta wait and see.